Hello there and welcome to Season 2 of Ben's Learning Lounge. It's brilliant to have you back for a second season. We've got an incredible first episode to start us off here with James, and before we get into that, I just want to let you know that there's a giveaway that's going alongside this episode. Yes, you can actually win yourself a Ben's Learning Lounge tote bag and £50 in Amazon vouchers. More of that can be found on my Facebook page and Instagram page, which will be linked in the YouTube description. Alternatively, if you're listening to this on Spotify or iTunes, you can find those on facebook.com/Ben's Learning Lounge or Instagram.com/Ben's Learning Lounge. Really easy to remember. It's a giveaway that you won't want to miss and will continue until Wednesday, the 28th of October. Today, JPMES or James will be talking to us about how he went from 0 songs to releasing over a dozen brilliant R&B hip hop songs in 2020, the fact that he records in his own bedroom and how that is, how he's advertised himself in very interesting non-conventional ways, and his opinions on WAP and the music industry as a whole. All that and more coming on this episode, and if you're wondering what that song is in the background, it's actually Everything I Need by James, which is one of his newest songs that has just come out, and I thought it would be a brilliant way to introduce ourselves into Season 2. Once again, thank you for coming back. I'm very grateful, and I really hope that you enjoy the episode. So, first question, just to go into it before we start talking about your music, tell me a little bit about yourself, what's your background, what do you do, all that type of stuff.
Yeah, cool. So, my name's James. I am 22, almost 23 now. My birthday next Friday. So
happy
almost 23.
Birthday.
Yeah. Thanks, man. I used to go to Lancaster Uni, originally from London, Southeast London, stand up. Had 3 years at Lancaster doing economics and maths. Graduated last year. So since last September, I've been working for my church part-time, doing an internship. So learning a lot about a lot of different stuff. I've done all sorts of stuff over the last year. It's been really great. So that's all the stuff I've been doing now, and a bit about me. But yeah, man.
Yeah, not bad. I mean, the thing is that you're doing this stuff and you're getting time to do what is a really interesting music career, or beginning of a music career.
Yeah.
So tell me a bit about how you've managed to get into that scene, and also how would you define the genre of music here? What's the genre that you're doing?
So it's difficult because I'm when I start making music, I don't really go in with a set this is the type of song I want to make. I kind of just go in and start playing on stuff, and whatever happens. But it mostly turns out to be hip hop, R&B-ish, a mix between the two. Sometimes my parents are both Nigerian. I've listened to a lot of African music, a lot of, obviously being from London, I've got a lot of Caribbean influence as well. So there's it's all mixed in there a little bit. But yeah, I'd say probably mostly hip hop, R&B. But how I started, so when I was 16, I've always been pretty musical. Started singing in a choir at 6 at church, and then taught myself how to play the drums, taught myself how to play the keyboard a little bit as well, a little bit of guitar as well, growing up. And then when I was 16, I got a load of money from my parents for my birthday, which was a massive surprise. And they were just do what you want with it. So me being the responsible 16-year-old I was, I went out and bought a load of music software. So I already had a MacBook. I went out and bought Logic, which was £140 at the time. And then I bought a MIDI keyboard, which I still use now. I bought a few other things as well, and basically blew the whole thing within a month on a load of music stuff.
Nice.
And then I just started making stuff in my room from then. So I started producing my own music, and then wrote a few songs as well. But at that stage, I was I'm never ever gonna let anyone hear any of these songs, because I was didn't have the self-esteem to even think about releasing anything. But yeah.
So how did you manage to you say you were into music when you were a kid, you taught yourself drums, guitar, all this kind of stuff, which is brilliant. But didn't you just say you did economics and maths at uni?
Yeah.
That's quite a jump.
So I know, man. I actually haven't done music formally since year 9 in school. So I didn't pick it as a GCSE, didn't pick it as an A-level. I used to play the violin in primary school, but those are the only lessons that I've had musically. And I've got a grade 1 certificate in violin, I'll have you know. So
there you go, everyone, in case you need a violinist, he's here.
So, but if you asked me to play it now, I'd be pretty terrible, as you can imagine. But it's essentially just YouTube has been my savior for music. It's been my teacher. And because I feel like I've been doing music for so long, I'm pretty good at just listening to stuff and kind of being able to work out what's going on. I can kind of, like when I'm listening to stuff, it's almost like there's a mini keyboard in my head and I'm trying to figure out what's happening. And then when I get home or whatever, or get to the nearest keyboard, I can kind of figure it out pretty quickly, which is, I guess, something that, was developed over time. Definitely not something I'm born with.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Because obviously, the idea is some people just have like a natural talent when it comes to music. They're born like just knowing what to do. You sound like a very like self-taught guy. So for you, it was everything taught. Like, what about like, because you've got quite a, you got a good singing voice as well. So is this something that you've like had to work on, or were you just like naturally good at these things?
I'd say I've always been able to hold a note, but then obviously as you probably know yourself, like being a guy growing up as a teenager, you go through this stage where there's all sorts happening with your voice.
Yeah.
So my voice broke so early. Like my voice broke when I was 12 years old.
Oh, really?
So I was like, I've sounded like this since I was
you were like the first kid in class to say yes, miss in a funny voice.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was, so I feel like I've got a pretty deep voice anyway. So imagine, like, I was just trying to figure out how my voice worked and how to use it, and it was still like developing and stuff at that age. But yeah, I think maybe I am like quite musically talented naturally, but like even with teaching myself drums or piano, with the piano we just had one in my house, and I just every day from school for like after school for like 2 years, I was just coming back home, twinkling around on it and trying to learn songs. I think probably the first song I learned was Someone Like You by Adele, which is a pretty simple song. And just like, it was a gradual progression to get to where I am now.
So how long have you been making music that people have been able to listen to now? Because I only spotted you, I think, well, I knew you a bit at uni, but I only spotted your music, I think, only a few months ago. So like, how long have you been out there like publishing it?
Yeah, so I started putting out music December, I think, was the first time I put out music like that people could listen to. I'd had in my head basically from like March I started, March 2019, I like started writing music again. So the song that I released on the 6th of December 100,000 times was written in like February, March of that same year. But I kind of decided that I was gonna give music another crack, and because I've always been making music, and it's always been something that's like I've enjoyed. It's always been something that's important to me, and like a lot of people have always asked me like, oh, why don't you put something out? And it's like, it's so easy now to do, and I'm like, you know what, why not? And it's been like such a great thing to start doing. I'm so happy I started doing it.
When you recorded 100,000 miles, you made that with the knowledge that you're going to put that out there for a public audience, or were you still kind of debating it? Or
so I at that point, I was probably, because I did like an initial version of the song where I produced it on like a crappy laptop with like limited sounds, and then I redid the instrumental when I got my Mac, and then I did like I had all the words and stuff and the melody, and then I re-recorded all of that to where it was sounding good. And I think in my head at that point I was working hard enough on it that I was like, okay, if I don't put it out, I've just wasted a load of my time. So I'm like, I could at the very least put it out and see what people think about it, and whatever feedback I get is the feedback I get. So,
and so far, has it been mainly positive stuff?
Yeah, it's been overwhelmingly positive. Like, I'm still not getting like massive like millions of streams, but I'm like, my friends and family have been like the most supportive people ever, and it's been like the best thing, because like when I feel like, I'm sure you know, with podcasting and starting something new, initially when the numbers aren't as high as you dream that they one day could be, like you're like, this is kind of almost like you've got your passion driving you on and just your enjoyment for it, but it's almost like I'm putting all this effort into something and no one's listening. But I feel like I've I've had so much encouragement from people and so many comments, like people like yourself who just come out of their way and told me that they enjoy what I'm doing, and this definitely keeps me going. It's definitely been a worthwhile experience.
Oh yeah, the fire, like, completely agree with that when it comes to podcasting too. Like the fire, right? Like it's initially just internal, right?
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, I'll give it a go, see what happens. And then that can quickly die out if it isn't built up by like your friends and family around
exactly.
you. Like they can be such a supportive element to this thing. So it's really good that you're getting that though, man, and that it's like driving you on with it. So so tell me a bit about like what I want to know is like your creative process when it comes to making a song, because I don't know. Look, I'm not a musical man. I can play a few chords on a ukulele.
Nice. It's more than me.
And I've got a guitar, but I only learnt enough so I could like impress some girls when I was 16. So
that's what we do it for.
That's what we do it for. Yeah, I played some Ed Sheeran songs, But like I don't know the creative process when it comes to using musical instruments to like make a song, and you use technology to your advantage too. It's not all like acoustic things. So how do you actually go ahead? Like, do you make the melody first, the vocals, like or what the actual lyrics are gonna be? Like, just tell me what the process is. How'd you do it?
So I'll always start with music. So I'll just sit by the keyboard. Usually I'll like it depends what type of like mood I'm in. Sometimes if I feel like I want to make something where I want to rap, then I'll just pick a tempo and then I'll just start clicking in the drums on the computer, and then I'll worry about like bass line and melody later. Or if I feel like I'm gonna sing on it, then I'll just sit down at the keyboard and just start playing away, and then whatever I feel like I like the sound of, I'll scroll through the different sounds on Logic and kind of see what I'm feeling at that point, and then just go from there. And then I'll gradually like build out the instrumental and like add a load of other instruments, and then after the instrumental was like in a good place, then I'll usually just get on my microphone and I just hit record, and I just like freestyle a load of like
Sweet.
melodies and like basically melodies and flows, just so I can like because I'm terrible with, I feel like I've got a good ear for just melodies naturally. So if I was to sit down and try and make the most satisfying melody in the world, I'd be there for hours on end. But if I was just to flow from what's in my head, then I can find something in there that I feel like I can work with, and then usually the words will come after that, and I'll try and fit words into what I've got on the melody. But yeah.
Right, yeah, that's so you kind of got like a little bit of a system there, like so you start off with the instrumental, then you slowly build your way into vocal. Yeah. That's cool that you start with like you just freestyle, see what comes out, see what comes from it. Is usually most of that stuff, because I'm quite a big listener of your music. Is a lot of that stuff like from your own personal experiences? Yeah,
so majority of it is like was my personal experience, and then there's like a few songs which I'm not sure I've even come out yet that are like based on true stories or based on things that I've made up in my head. So my last song, I Want Everything, was a situation that I've never been involved in my life, but I was just like, oh, this sounds like a cool situation to write about. And I feel like it's still, even though it's not me that's experienced it, I feel like I put myself in the shoes of what that person would be feeling, and still write from that person's perspective. Would
you found that as easy when you just started out? Because you've got quite a few songs out now, so have you seen yourself evolve in some ways over a relatively short period of time? But you've got quite a few songs out,
Yeah. I think at this point, I'm still trying to figure out like what I want to sound like. And like, if you listen to all my songs, like they all sound like pretty different from each other at this point. Like there's maybe one or two where they overlap, but for the most part, I'm still like figuring out where I want to go and what I want to take. I think I'm more comfortable with the process now of having a song and wanting to release it and knowing all the things that I need to do to get it out on the date that I want it out, with like the right promotion, or with like getting it to the distributor on time and things like that.
But man, speaking of promotion, I'll never forget. It was the one when you had the I think it was a shoe. and a shoe to your ear.
Yeah.
That was brilliant. I saw that and I'm like, what is this guy on? Like, I need to check out whatever songs he's doing to be doing this.
I was just like, you know what? I was just trying to think of the silliest thing that I could do. I'd just be like, hang on a second. Is he on the telephone to a shoe right now?
I think I could put some kind of picture up on the YouTube thing, but honestly, imagine just scrolling through your Facebook, like, you know, you're looking at your nan's updates, you know, about how a day's getting on. You see this guy with a shoe to his head. It was something else.
I'm glad you enjoyed that.
Like you mentioned, though, a lot of your music, it does have different styles. That's why I wanted to ask you about, like, your genre, right? Like, because you fit into quite a few, and you know, personally, like, I always love those smooth songs because I'm big into, like, Lil Kana, Raleigh Ritchie, that kind of stuff. So what's your, like, do you have any personal inspirations that or role models in the industries that kind of drive some of your music?
Well, Lil Kana is definitely one of them. Both of those two guys, Raleigh Ritchie as well, like, both of those are my guys. Like, I think it was, I've got a song called Risk It All, and the first verse is me singing, the second verse is me rapping, and I just couldn't get, I had all the words and I had, like, the flow, I knew how it was going to go, but I just couldn't get the sound of my voice right. And I was just listening, I was like, went back into my Spotify and I put on Lil Kana, I put on Ice and Water from his last album. And I was listening to that and I was like, okay, I got it now. So
sweet.
Definitely those two, which is interesting that you say that. But definitely, like, some of the bigger artists, people like Drake, a massive influence. So I know it's not, when Drake was first coming out, he was singing and rapping on the same song, and a lot of people were like, whoa, what is happening right now? So that's definitely, I definitely draw a lot of inspiration from him. I'm a big fan of Dave. South London as well. But yeah, he's I've been a massive fan of Dave from, like, day one. I'm like a big, I remember when he used to reply to my tweets. Yeah, I used to reply to my tweets. I've, like, met him once. Yeah, I'm a massive Dave fan. I bought like his merch last year. I bought his album on vinyl. I bought his album on vinyl. I don't even have a vinyl player. Like, I'm a massive Dave fan.
Yeah, you seen him live?
Yeah, seen him live twice.
Nice.
So yeah, he's great. I love Dave, and I think we've got a very similar like, rapping style. He like uses a lot of metaphors and a lot of wordplay and stuff like that. And he's very, like, straight to the point. I think I try and take some of that and put that in my music as well. But yeah.
I mean, you mentioned a little bit though about, like, how, because where did you say your parents are from? Nigeria?
Nigeria, yeah.
Do you like manage to get any influences like that, or any influences that maybe aren't expected? Like you said, you like Adele, right? So, like, do you put anything else that maybe people don't expect into your music, or maybe it just made its way in there?
I don't know. I think sometimes it just comes out, like, especially on drums, because I'm a drummer first. That is my first instrument. I'm like, and I played drums in church basically my whole life. And it's a lot of, while I was playing in church, it was a lot of, like, African style of music. So that will naturally come out, like, in my drums, in my songs. And I'm like, listening back, I'm like, oh man, I didn't even realize I was doing that right there. But I don't know. I think there's definitely just influences from everywhere. And there's definitely songs, like, where I've just been listening to an artist one day and I thought, oh, like, I wonder what it would sound like for me to almost sound like this artist, but put my own spin on it. Like, there's one of the songs I released called This Feeling, and I was listening to Goosebumps by Travis Scott, and I'm like, I sound nothing like Travis Scott, and he's got, like, a completely different sound to kind of what I have been going for. But in that song, I, like, put a bit of auto-tune on my voice and, like, kind of got in that bag. I still feel like I was myself on it. I sounded like myself, but it was definitely very inspired by Travis Scott.
That's
song.
The thing, man. So how do you manage not to, like? So, all right. When I said I'd learn, like, acoustic guitar, I'm big into. I'm big into, like, the 1975, right?
Nice.
Good cheeky little boy band.
Yeah.
But whenever I try and sing a song, I was like, man, I'm just copying Matt Healy. I'm just copying that guy full on. Everything he's doing, I know I'm doing it. How do you manage to, like, keep a fine line between, like, inspiration and like, imitation?
I think just being aware of, like, what you're writing and just, like, how you're performing. Because I know, like, a lot of the artists that I listen to, they've kind of got distinct styles or, like, I don't know, distinct ways that they do things. And there's stuff that I know I'm like, it's happened multiple times where I've gone on to like record a song or to write a song and I'm like, this is this is so far away from me. Or like, even if I write something, if I like, there's a few lyrics that for like literally single lines in songs that I've like changed because I'm like, this could not be any further away from my reality. But so I think it's just being conscious of the fact that I'm trying to be myself. I'm not, I feel like a lot of artists sometimes will step into a character when they're like making their music, which is, I'm not saying that's a good or a bad thing, but it's, I'm trying to be myself. I'm trying to tell my story. I know that if I'm being like insincere in like my lyrics or even like in my style, I'm like, I can see it straight away. I'm like, okay, James.
Yeah, it's good though, because if you keep it authentic as well, then people are going to listen to you because it's you as well, right? Like people aren't going to be like, oh, this guy's the clone of this dude.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you mentioned, you got a few inspirations and you got like a mix of styles, so it's good because people are going to be like, no, I like this guy, you know. That's probably the biggest thing nowadays, is that you want people to, if people like you, people are going to listen to whatever you put out there.
Yeah.
And that sounds like you're building yourself organically, which just sounds great. So what kind of challenges are there in making music that maybe people don't think about?
I wouldn't necessarily say this for me, but I'd say for most artists, because I'm in a lucky position because I produce all of my music, I write all of my music, I mix all of my music, I master all of my music like in my room. Like I know a lot of artists, like some artists will have trouble with writing a song, or some artists will have trouble, like won't have, like they need to buy beats off of people, buy instrumentals, they need to send it out to get mixed, they need to send it out to get mastered. So I think that can very quickly get very, very expensive. And yeah, there was like an expense with like kind of setting myself up, like buying my MIDI keyboard, or buying this microphone, or buying an audio interface. But those things are like, they were like an initial cost, and like it's very cheap for me now to make music. So I feel like that,
you see it's like an investment.
Yeah, exactly. That is not really an issue for me because I do everything myself. But I feel like,
sorry man, I don't mean to cut you off. Did you say that like you record it all in your room?
Yeah, literally from this very chair.
How'd you get the quality?
So I feel like I got a decent microphone. It still wasn't expensive. It was less than £100. But I think just learning, and that was one of the challenges of me starting to put out my own music. I was learning to mix myself. So like, I feel like that's definitely a progression that I've seen, where the mixes are getting better and it's sounding more and more like professional quality. But it definitely takes me a while. Like the writing of the song is like 30% of like releasing a song. You have to produce it, and then you have to mix it and master it, and I've been doing a lot of my artwork myself as well, and like sending it to a distributor and all of this other stuff that I was like not nearly prepared for when I said to myself that I want to start putting out music. So
do you think in future like you would make it easy on yourself by sort of extending that to other people, or do you feel very like you want to be tight on, like, do you want to be controlling over everything enough that you know it's all in your remit?
Yeah, I think I always want to write, or I always want to like be in the room, or be involved in the writing. I definitely always want to be involved in the production, to some extent, and that's like a lot of people like co-produce, where one person sends over an idea and then the other person will like complete the beat. I'm very happy doing those things. But like all the other stuff, like mixing and mastering, is good stuff to know. Like especially as a producer, it's good stuff to know how to do that stuff. But I'd rather not have to sit down at my computer and spend 5 hours trying to perfect the volume levels or the compression on this one specific instrument that I can't figure out because my room isn't like I don't even know, acoustically sound. So I think definitely stuff like that just would take a lot of the pressure off of myself, especially because I'm working and I've got like friends and family, so like my time is like very, very like tight because of how much music I've chosen to put out as well. So
yeah, you've really got a good range out there. So do you think that you'll be able to carry on with the growth that you're currently managing? Like, have you got any like little tricks up your sleeve or anything, or is it just seeing how you're going to organically grow over the next few months?
So I think I've written and produced all of the songs that I want to release for the rest of the year already. And so by December, I would have released 13 songs within a year.
Jesus.
Yeah,
that's top level stuff.
Thank you, man. And I think that's like a massive achievement for me, because there were times where I'd set out to do it. I said, okay, I want to release something every month from December to December. But there were definitely points where I was like, okay, where am I going to find a song for this month or for that month? And as crazy as coronavirus has been, it was definitely like a little bit of a blessing to be locked in my house for 3 or 4 months or whatever it was, because I was just probably like 6 or 7 of those songs came during that like 3-4 month period where I just was, because I was just had nothing else to do. I was just making music all the time. But yeah, I definitely want to, after this year, after December, I want to take a little bit of a break. Don't know how long it's going to be, but take a little bit of a break and like keep writing, because I've not written anything for a while now, just because I was writing so much before. So take a break, and then I just want to up the quality levels on my music and in my writing, and like up the quality levels with, like, I did one music video like this year. I want to do more. I want to make them look great. So that type of thing.
Just so people know, like what music video was it and what you do?
We did a music video for Peace of Mind, and so that song was probably the quickest I've made a song. Well, until my most recent song. I produced that whole song in a day. I wrote it. I produced it in a day, and I wrote it over
John
the
Lennon.
next 3 days. Yeah, I know. I wrote. So there's 3 verses on the song. I wrote a verse each day. In the next days after that. So it was a whole song for me done in 4 days, completely finished. And I was like, okay, I just want to do something cool. So my housemate Ellis owns like a decent camera and has editing software on his computer. So we decided to put out a music video, and it was just like kind of just us, like, or me, just in and around Lancaster. I spent a lot of time in Williamson Park, and just like, I don't know, just in the middle of town, just doing. We had a projector as well at our house, and we put some funny things on the projector for me to stand in front of, which was quite funny.
I love it too, man, because like, you know, it's thinking about like what, you know, you're down there in London and stuff, and now like Lancaster, you know, like the difference there, like yeah, man, yeah, you got to check out James. Yeah, he did a video in Lancaster.
Definitely. I think like that's definitely something that I want to stick with as well, because a lot of people have been like quiet. Like my family's from London, my parents still live in London. I could move back to London anytime I want, and they're confused at why I wouldn't want to do that, because London's like the hub of all music, like the music industry in this country. But I feel like I'm in a unique position being from London and not living in London, in somewhere else where it's a lot less crowded. There's a lot less noise of other artists in my lane trying to do similar things to me. I know London's a very competitive market. Not to say that I wouldn't back myself, but I definitely like having like my own space up here.
Yeah, you're keeping it authentic. You're trying to find ways to stand out. You're doing interesting promo. Like you're ticking all the boxes, man. And thanks, all man. That considering the fact that you've got a lot of busy stuff going on in your day-to-day life. So it's really, it's really great stuff. So have you managed to think about things like merch, that kind of stuff? Because I'm telling you, man, I'd buy myself a nice little hat.
Really?
Yeah, I'd buy myself a hat.
You're the first person to say that to me. So now I might just make one hat. I might make one hat and just sell it to you.
Just rep it on the podcast.
Exclusive.
Man, no, but really, like I bet you now you mentioned it, friends and family, they'd eat that stuff up as well. Like if they see you supporting you. Just think about it.
Definitely stuff that I want to like get into in the future.
Yeah.
I'm definitely a very visual person. So I think that'd be fun to do, to be involved in that. Yeah. That'd
be sweet. And lastly, I want to kind of like bring the point to like a wider context. Like, what's your opinion on the current music scene at the moment? Because 2020 has been kind of interesting. Like personally for me, there hasn't been that much come out that I've been big on. Obviously, everyone's been talking about fucking WAP, haven't they? That's like been the thing on everyone's lips. Like,
oh my gosh.
Like, yeah, what's your opinion on current music right now? And like, if you had like the ability to do something, change something, what would you want to do?
I think, yeah, this year's been a weird one. I think just because obviously coronavirus has been just impacted everyone, and it's been a different way of doing a lot of stuff. Like I know Kehlani released an album this year, and she said when lockdown and stuff happened in America, she had to go back to the drawing board, and a lot of they had like a massive music video planned and a massive like rollout planned, and they just couldn't execute it because of coronavirus. And she like filmed a music video in her room by herself, which went on to get like millions of views, which was definitely, I think, an encouraging thing. I think it's been people have been shown that they can make music, and they can like make their own art without having to have like a massive budget. And like I say, I like make all my music in my room. Like I've never been in a music studio in my life, and I feel like you was quite surprised to hear that after listening to my music. I feel like a lot of people could potentially like be doing the same, because we're in a time now where I can send my music to Spotify and Apple Music and all of these places. Like you can put my music on your story on Instagram, and I'm just little old me in my room. Yeah. I feel like a lot of people could be more independent. As Kanye West is going on rants every day talking about his masters being owned by Universal and them not selling him the rights to his music. I have the rights to my music, and obviously I've not got 23 Grammys like Kanye has, but I own everything because I've done everything myself. So I feel like, yeah, there's definitely room now for people to do what they want to do and not have to wait on the backing of a huge record label. WAP was crazy. It took me 2 attempts to watch the video because I
got through it though.
Well, I started watching it with my girlfriend, and I was like, okay, I can't watch this right now. We got like 10 seconds into the video.
You need a breather, right?
And I was like, yeah, I can't do this.
Yeah.
And then I watched it again with my housemate, and straight afterwards, because we're both Christians, we're both like for modest dressing and sexual morality and all of that, and we were just watching like we should not have watched that. But it was it's a catchy song. But
I want to hear you put like what I'd love, right? Your next song coming 2021, it's going to be a Christian version of WAP with sexual morals.
Well, yeah, I saw on Twitter someone made their own version of WAP, and it was worship and praise.
Oh, brilliant! That's great. Yeah, well, there you go. I suppose there's always going to be someone who's going to beat you to that type of stuff.
Yeah, there's loads of music that's come out this year that I've enjoyed. I really enjoyed Black's project. Black with a 6 for a B.
Yeah.
And he actually did a song called Outside, which I loved, and it was basically about coronavirus and about like the chorus is, I'll meet someone I can play with when it's time to go outside and play again. And it was like the whole thing of being inside and waiting for someone that you can eventually, when they release us from lockdown, that we can go out and have fun with. And there was loads of music like that, like coronavirus related music, that I was like not expecting to enjoy, because I was expecting it to be mentioned, and I expected it to be like a topic, but I wasn't expecting to enjoy any of it, because I was like, it's such a tough topic to even like think about. So I think a lot of artists have done well with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you're right though. It's interesting to see how people are using a topic like Corona and actually turning it into something good with music. I suppose that's the thing with art though, isn't it? Like people always find a cool way to represent what's going on currently in musical way, like arty way or whatever. And if they do it right, then it can be, it could just be a good, in the future, it'd be a good lookout in the past, right? Get your kids to listen to that. Like that's what it was like.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, brilliant. I want to say again, James, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Thanks, man.
Again, I'm sure loads of people are going to want to check you out after this. But I'll leave the stage to you now. Like, tell people where they can find you, like your songs, what you're up to, all that type of stuff.
Cool. So my stage name is JPMES. I've had there's a lot of debate on how it's actually pronounced. I'm not sure how a Google Home would pronounce it, or how an Alexa would pronounce it, or how Siri would announce it, but I spell it out, JPMES. I've had JPMES, I've had JPMES, JPMES, all of that.
JPMES?
But yeah, but JPMES is what I go with. Yeah, putting out music on all streaming platforms at the minute. Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Amazon Music, Google Play, YouTube. My Instagram is at JPMES1. My Twitter is at JPMES.
Yeah, we'll get all these links as well.
Yeah, cool. I'm releasing music every month. So my next song is coming out on the 20th of September. I'm not sure when this comes out, but yeah, it's called Everything I Need, and it's great. And
should we get
more music to come?
Should we get that to play us out instead of the Mad Learning Lounge music? Can we get that?
Send it to you. Yeah, definitely.
All right, sweet. Right, that's great though. Thanks a lot, James. I appreciate it, and yeah, enjoy the sounds of his new song.
Lifestyle's never been crazy, and lately I've been less lazy. One day I'm trying to live like Jay-Z and run this town with my lady. Challenging myself to be greater every day, but all I think about is paper. Never got time for a hater, and it's never the time for clout chasers. Even though my life's been comfy, sometimes I still get grumpy. I don't want to smile all the time, all I can do is try. I ain't talking about rugby. I was never out on the field, always meek, now I'm trying to see meals. Sometimes try to forget how I feel. My emotions I can't reveal. No matter how many people try to press me, still sticking up bins like Messi. Still putting myself under pressure, up front like Vardy at Leicester. Knowing the life I want is in front of me, realising no work is under me.